Hey friends, it's Ashley with Her Money Mastery, and if you are new here, welcome to my magical little corner of the internet where I teach women how to take control of their money with a mindset-based approach. We talk about anything from budgeting to debt payoff, savings to money mindset and wealth building, and everything in between. So if that sounds like your vibe, go ahead and subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you can come get your money motivation every week. Today we are talking about my personal money journey so that you can know this is possible for you. I want you to see what happened for me so that you can be inspired to show up for yourself and do the work, because you will be surprised at what you are capable of when you have good information, good plans, and you actually show up for yourself. A lot of people get into the bad black hole mindset. They think they are not able, they think they are not capable sometimes. I know at least I used to be there, especially when I didn't have much money and I was in a black hole, right? So I think it's really important for you to see somebody maybe similar to yourself that you can identify with who made this happen, who figured it out and got to the other side. I think it's really important for you to see journeys like that so that you can know it's possible for you too. So let's get straight into it. Like I said, we're talking about my journey, and I want to tell you where I started first. So when I started, I was making less than $40,000 per year. I think it was about $36,000 a year. I was a young single mom, so I had my daughter at 19 years old, and I was kind of thrust into the real world really quick, right? I had to figure out a lot of things. This made it harder on me. I had to grow up really fast. I had to learn a lot of things, and I did make a ton of mistakes along the way, as you can imagine. So that is an important part of my journey. I also had over $10,000 of debt when I finally got serious and made something happen. I had a really, really bad mindset, a very negative mindset, a very self-depreciating mindset where I thought that I wasn't capable of good things. I thought I wasn't worthy of good things. And I looked at my situation a lot of times and just felt hopeless because I honestly couldn't picture myself making it out of the situation I had gotten myself in. It was a very hard time, and I was already inclined to be kind of a negative person anyway. That's how I had been like through my teenage years. And like I said, I became a mom really young, so I didn't really have time to find myself or to figure out better ways of being. So I was in a really bad headspace, and this is important because mindset is one of the things that is holding you back probably. People don't pay enough attention to that, and I'll talk about that in a minute. I also had no savings whatsoever, and I was broke AF, okay? I had negative money in the bank. Sometimes I did not know if I was going to be able to get groceries, or I did not know like if I was going to have enough money to pay my light bill or whatever. It was really, really stressful. I'm sure you can imagine, and I'm sure some of you can also relate to that, right? So just know if you identify with any of these, you can change your situation. And even if you are in a better situation than this right now and you're still feeling hopeless, you can change your situation. I really want to empower you with this video to understand that the power's in your hands and you can really make it happen if you want to. If you show up for yourself, if you make the plans, you don't give up on yourself, you can get to where you're trying to be, okay? So I want you to also know my journey was not linear by any means at all, okay? It was trial and error for years. And for some of this time, like in the beginning, I knew that I wanted my life to be better, right? I knew I didn't want to be broke all the time. I wanted my daughter to have good experiences. I didn't want her to watch me struggle. I didn't want her to inherit a struggle. And this was a very motivating force behind me. But in the beginning, I didn't even know what this was going to look like. So it's not like I was taking coordinated steps. It was like I was kind of trying things here. Oh, that wasn't working. I would try something over here. Oh, that wasn't working. And it took me a long time to kind of get to a place where I felt more confident in my steps. But even when I started making good steps, you need to understand that it was not linear. It wasn't linear for me, and it probably won't be linear for you either, because the road to success is never linear. There's a lot of ups and downs, and that's where your mindset is really going to come in and save you a lot of times. It's going to keep you on track, okay? So this is kind of what my journey looked like over the years. It was my starting point. And then I would make a little progress. Then I would have a setback. Then I would make a little progress and I would have a big setback. I would get really depressed and non-motivated, and I would kind of stall for a while. Then maybe I would make a little bit more progress. Then I would get set back again. in the beginning, I didn't understand that that was normal. So I thought I was doing things wrong, which sometimes I was, but I didn't understand that this was not supposed to be a linear path. So that was very hard on my mindset, especially when I was younger, because I didn't understand the concept of the non-linear path, right? I didn't understand the concept of, okay, things will knock you down, but you can recover from that even to a better place. And I want to talk about this part of my journey right here a little bit, because when it came to my debt, this is one of the things I was majorly struggling with. So I was aware enough to understand that I was spending a lot of money per month, at least at the time for me. I was spending a lot of money on debt. A lot of my money was having to go to credit card payments and all of this. And by the way, the reason I was getting into debt in the first place is because I didn't know how to manage my money correctly. I didn't understand my spending habits or anything about money at all, really, because I wasn't taught that. And so I was having to put things on credit cards basically to survive at some points. Now, did some of my impulse purchases also go on credit cards? Yes, they did, because I didn't have good habits. But I got myself into $5,000 worth of credit card debt. At the time, that's all the credit I had access to. So everything that I had was completely maxed out. Okay, so one of the things is that I was making progress, and then I got an offer. And by the way, again, I didn't know better. I thought it was a good idea at the time, but I got an offer to get a personal loan to consolidate all my debt into one payment. At the time, I thought to myself, okay, this sounds like a great idea. This sounds like, something that's going to make my life easier because I don't have to pay all these other different payments. I'll make it into one loan, and then that I'll just make that one payment and I'll get it paid off, and I'll put extra payments towards it. And I had good intentions. Okay. That's the point here. I didn't know better, and this was a very predatory loan. At the time, I knew nothing about interest rates, so I didn't really even look at that. And I know that sounds crazy, but you have to understand that, like, in my young 20s, so I had my daughter when I was 19. In my early 20s is when I started really making mistakes like this, and I, honest to God, did not know better. I did not know that I should Google this or, like, ask somebody, what is this a good idea or not? I just didn't. So I thought this was going to be a great idea. When I talked to the loan person, obviously they sold me on it. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. What happened though, because I did not address any of the other reasons why I was in debt. So I didn't address my money management. I didn't address my mindset. I didn't address the fact that I was an impulse spender and I had certain triggers that were causing me to overspend. So since I didn't address that, guess what happened? I got my loan, I paid off all the credit cards and stuff, and I was feeling great. But then guess what? I went and maxed out all my credit cards again. Yes, so I doubled my debt. And now not only did I have all that high interest credit card debt, I had a very predatory, extremely high interest loan for $5,000 that I had to also pay off. So now I had over $10,000 of debt. And that was a major setback. Okay. When I figured out, like when I finally came to the realization that I had maxed out my cards again, I was extremely mad at myself. I was upset. I was ashamed. I was embarrassed. All of the bad things you can probably think is what I was feeling. And this caused me to spiral a little bit. I went a little bit out of control, spiraled a little bit. My mindset got worse. It was a bad time. And I was essentially living in survival mode. I was spending a lot of my money on debt, to the point where it was like getting scary for a while, right? Eventually, I got to a point where I said, okay, something has to give. I cannot live like this. I cannot continue to have to tell my kid no because she wants to do things, or she wants to go out to eat, or, she wants to go do fun activities. And sometimes I have to tell her no because I don't have the freaking money, because I got myself in this horrible situation. I can't live like this anymore. I cannot be stressed. I cannot be perpetually in survival mode at all times. This has to change. So I got really serious at this time. Now, I still didn't understand the role that my mindset really played into this. This didn't come until later. But the first thing that I did was I tried to make a budget. Okay. That is really when my journey, I would say, officially started down the path of being serious, but it still wasn't linear. Okay. So I had this major setback. I would start budgeting for a while and trying to pay off some of this debt, but then something unexpected would happen and I would have to put more onto debt because I did not save first. Okay. This is why I preach really hard. You need a savings first before you start on your debt payoff. Because if you don't have a safety net, you're going to pay off some of your debt. Something unexpected is going to happen. You're going to have to go back into debt. Okay, so it's going to erase your progress. I didn't understand that, so I went back and forth on that for a while. Something would knock me down, but I would be determined and I'd be like, nope, it's okay. I would start paying it off again. Something would happen. And, these little things that, when they say like it rains, it pours. So I would get a flat tire, or my phone would break, or something unexpected would have to come up for my daughter that I would have to pay for. I would maybe have to take her to urgent care or something. So I went back and forth on this for a while. Then I finally thought to myself, let me try to save some money. Now, this was not an easy thing to do because I wasn't making that much money and I barely had the money to get by, but I started doing things like picking up side hustles. Okay, so I would, first of all, in high school, like back in my high school days, I was obsessed with photography. So I had a camera already. So I said, why not like try to do photo shoots for people, try to get money that way. I also would sell things on Facebook Marketplace. Eventually down the line, I taught myself how to build websites and I would do that for people. So I started picking up side hustles here and there to make extra money to throw at my savings, because my first initial goal that was in my head for some reason was $1,000. And I had never in my life saved $1,000. This seemed like a huge amount of money to me at the time. And I was like, if I can just save $1,000, I'll be set, right? Like obviously $1,000 in today's time does not go very far, but at the time that was the most I had ever saved. So that was my main goal. I got there by any means necessary. And guess what? When I hit that goal, I felt so freaking good. This gave me so much motivation to get going. Now, again, this is not a linear path. So unfortunately, I would hit my savings goal. Something would happen, a huge setback that would either erase my savings or eat up most of it. This was a hard mental toll, right? This was really, really hard for me when this started happening, because I felt like, why the hell am I working so hard? I am trying so hard to make progress. I am doing the right things. I am just trying to head in the right direction. And then life keeps knocking me down. I was telling myself, like I was starting to build a belief that when I do good things, like when I finally hit a goal, it's going to be taken away from me. Okay. This was a really hard time for me, like I just said. So this is kind of when I started getting into mindset work, because once I heard and started realizing that your mindset kind of like creates the reality around you, I really dove off into that because it made sense to me. And I started realizing that I am creating some of my own problems with my mindset. That was an epiphany for me. Once I started incorporating mindset work, like breaking down my limiting beliefs, figuring out, what are the ways that I'm causing my own struggle? What are the bad things that I'm telling myself, not only about myself, but about money too? And I started breaking those things down, and I started trying to be my own cheerleader, and I started trying to incorporate things like affirmations into my life. I started trying to tell myself good things every single day. I started trying to manifest money. Okay, so that is when that kind of entered the scene for me. And that is really when I saw this huge upward trajectory. Okay, so it still was not linear, but I was less affected by the setbacks that I was having because I was doing this mindset work. This is so freaking important, y'all. People do not talk about this enough, especially when it comes to your money. If you can get your mindset under control, you will be so surprised all the things that can happen. You will be so surprised unexpected money comes into your life. Like debts can get erased. Okay, I've gotten random checks in the mail before. I found money on the floor. All these crazy things can happen when you start working on your money mindset specifically, and you stop getting in your own way. You stop being a victim to your situation, because that was another thing that I used to do a lot, was be a victim to my own life. So I would tell myself, like, why does this happen to me? Bad things always happen to me. I just can't get ahead. This is not fair. The economy is bad, et cetera, et cetera. And was the economy bad? Yeah, not as bad as it is now, right? But still, I was placing blame on all these external factors. And once it finally clicked for me, I cannot control these external factors. I can only control myself and my own actions and my own journey. That made a huge difference. Okay, so I stopped having as many setbacks. To be completely honest with you, I started building savings, and maybe one or two things would happen, but it would nowhere near like these huge drop offs I was having before, where like all my progress got erased. I started actually believing in myself. And then I started watching myself make progress and really building trust with myself to be able to do this and to be able to handle my own money. I cannot overstate how important your mindset is, okay? That's why I just went on this whole tangent, but like it's so important. So, anyway, I rebuilt my savings. I went into my debt payoff. And like I said, I started having this huge upward progress. So I was still doing my side hustles. I started finding things to make more money because I was still making less than 40K at my regular job. Okay. So I was doing photography. I was building websites. I was selling things on Facebook Marketplace, et cetera, to be able to put money towards my goals. Because after I hit that $1,000 savings, my next goal was to get my debt paid off. I made a debt snowball plan and I got to work on that and I went hard on it. Okay. I sacrificed a lot during this time to be able to get that debt paid off. So within a 1 year time period, I built my savings and I paid off all my debt. All 10,000 plus dollars of it was paid off in that 1 year because I got so serious. Now, once I paid that off, it like opened up a whole new world for me because obviously all that money that I was putting towards the debt now could go back in my pocket. So I could reconfigure my goals and say, okay, now I want to build my savings more. Now I want to try to buy a house. Like I'm going to fix my credit. I started doing all of these things to where my life literally changed. It literally completely changed. And when I look back on this time period, I'm like, wow, it is honestly crazy. This small, it started off as a small seed, completely changed the trajectory of my life. And not only my life, but my daughter's life. And now I have 2 more kids, changed their lives too. So this is so important. I just went on a whole tangent, but I just really want you to know that it's okay to not be perfect. It's okay that your journey is not linear. It's okay that you're going to have setbacks. The important thing is that you keep showing up for yourself. If you continue to show up for yourself and you keep trying and keep making imperfect actions, you will get to where you're trying to be because you are going to improve over time. I promise you that. Okay. So here are some things that really helped me on this journey to get to where I'm at right now. And that is save first before your debt payoff. I just talked a lot about that, but it is so important to at least save a small amount as a cushion because as you are going through your debt payoff and you're sending most of your extra money to your debts, you are going to need that cushion when unexpected things happen, or you're going to have to go further into debt. Okay. And it's going to erase your progress. That took me a really long time to learn because I kept getting knocked down and having to redo it and getting knocked down and having to redo it. When I finally saved is when it unlocked a lot of progress for me. Also, having a good budget and learning how to control my impulse spending made a huge difference. What I mean by a good budget is that you have to make a budget that fits your lifestyle. That can be anything. It doesn't have to look like the next person's budget. You need to ask yourself, what does my lifestyle look like? Am I going to get fast food sometimes? If so, put that in your budget. If you try to deprive yourself of every single thing that you like and the things that are in your lifestyle, you're going to blow your budget and you're not going to hit your goals. I learned that the hard way. And I didn't have a lot of extra money to be working with, but I still gave myself a small amount of money that I could spend because if not, I knew myself well enough to know that I was going to blow that budget. Okay, so that is something that really helped me. Learning how to budget for your lifestyle, the things that you like, so that you can enjoy a little bit of money. Even if it's a small amount, don't try to restrict yourself down to the bare freaking bones because it's not going to be sustainable long term. And then learning how to control your impulse spending. Some of this is mindset work. Okay, so learning, why do I if you keep making plans and you keep blowing them, for instance, it might be because of impulse spending. So maybe you're going out to a store to get milk and you end up leaving with 5 different things that you didn't plan to buy just because you saw them and you wanted them. Learning how to get those impulses under control is going to help a lot. It's going to help you a lot. And there are different ways you can do this. You can create rules for yourself to, in the moment, be able to stop, realize that you're about to do an impulse purchase and actually not do the impulse purchase. Things like a 24-hour waiting period or a savings match can really be helpful here. But once you learn how to control that, it's going to give you a lot of progress because you're probably doing a lot of impulse spending right now. Most people are, okay? Also, having solid account structures really helped me because the way that my brain works, I cannot have all my money in one place. I think actually most people should not have all their money in one bank account because it makes it too easy to spend it. Okay? You need separation in your money. So when I figured this out, it made a huge difference. And what I mean by account structure is I had one checking account for spending money, things like fun money, okay? My paycheck would go into that account and then I would distribute the money to the different places. So I had another account just for bills. When I opened that bill account, it's just a regular checking account. Once I opened that and started sending my bill money there instead of spending it out of the same account, that made a huge difference for me because I was no longer really worried about am I overspending or whatever. My bills are covered. I'm sending them to the bill account and my bills are being paid out of that bill account. Nothing else comes out of there. So that was really helpful for me. Also, one more thing is cash stuffing. So that was part of my account structure at the beginning because I would go and take money out of the bank. I would do my budget. I would send money to my bill account and then I would go to the bank and physically get cash out for groceries, gas, things like that, household items. So that way I would come home, put it in the different envelopes. And if I needed groceries, I would say, okay, I'm going to get my grocery envelope. Or if I wanted to get fast food, I told you I gave myself a little bit of a fast food budget. I would get my fast food envelope and it would make me stop and think, do I really want to spend this money? Because I see that I only have $20 in my fast food envelope. So do I want to spend this now or do I want to spend this later so that I'm not left with $0 till my next check? This caused me to learn how to be intentional with my money. So I recommend that to everybody, but that was part of my account structure and it really helped me. Also, side hustles and sacrifice. And I know you don't want to hear this. Nobody does. Nobody wants to work more, right? We barely want to work the amount we have to work. But when you are in a situation like I was in, where you are desperate to change your situation because you cannot live like this anymore, sometimes you're going to have to make that sacrifice. If you do not have enough money coming in to cover your bills and to make progress on your goals, you're going to have to find more income, friend. That is the solution. And like I said, I know you don't want to hear it, but that is the way. So you need to understand with that, it's not forever. Okay, you don't have to get side hustles and work 12, 14 hours a day every single day for the rest of your life, but you might have to for a while until you get to where you're trying to go. Because, for instance, once I paid off all my debt, I no longer had to work as much as I was because I had more money to work with now because it was freed up from debt, right? So just something to keep in mind, like if you tell yourself this is a temporary time period that I'm about to go through where I sacrifice, I get a side hustle, I work more hours, whatever the case is, to be able to hit my goals and I have a solid plan, at the end of this time period, I'm not going to have to do that anymore. And it is going to set you ahead so far. You can make years worth of progress in a short amount of time from that. So that is something that really changed my journey, is sitting here and sacrificing and doing what I had to do to get more money. It was not necessarily fun, but it was necessary. Also, visual goals. So you need to actually have goals for yourself in the first place, right? My first goal was $1,000. I created a tracker for myself that I hung on the wall so that it was in my face every single day. When I would send any money to my savings account, I would color in a little part of that goal tracker so that I could visually see my progress, and it kept me motivated, especially once I hit the halfway point. I'm like, oh my God, I'm almost there. And I have, again, never saved $1,000 in my life. This is about to feel amazing. So having goals and having like a visual tracker for them really, really, really helped me. And it will probably help you too. If you've never done this, at least give it a shot because you will be surprised. And when you keep your goals in your face all the time, you're forced to think about them. And what happens is your subconscious mind, which by the way, runs like 90% of your life without you realizing it, your subconscious mind is going to remember this goal and it is going to subconsciously steer you towards that goal. It will subconsciously steer your actions and your choices towards that goal. So it's very important to keep it in your face. Also, again, mindset work. This is so incredibly important. If you are feeling stalled or at like a stuck point in your journey, look into your mindset and see if there's anything you can improve or any work that you can do, because a lot of times that is where people get stuck. Once you start unlocking your mindset, everything starts changing. And just a small word about this really quickly. If you're not a type of person who's ever thought about this before, your mindset and the beliefs that you hold and the things that you think and the words that you say create the reality around you, friend. They really, really do. And like I said, I did not realize that for a long time. Once I started doing that work, I started realizing it is true. If you are constantly feeding yourself negativity, your reality is going to be negative. If you are constantly telling yourself that you are broke, that you can't pay off your debt, that the world is against you, that is going to be your reality. And yes, we cannot change the economy, right? I can't change the price of goods. Groceries are expensive. Everything's expensive. We can't change that. But we can change your actions. We can change the way you think and the way you show up for yourself in this world. And it does make a difference. I would strongly, strongly challenge you to at least do a little bit of this work and just watch the effect it has on your life. Because when you start specifically doing money mindset work and like figuring out your limiting beliefs about money and changing them, not only will it start changing your financial situation, it will ripple into every single other part of your life. I started out with like doing money mindset work because I was trying to get my money up, right? I was trying to change my situation, but I started realizing that my self-worth started changing. Actually, every single thing about my life started changing, every area of my life. So I attribute so much of my success to the mindset work that I did, because without that, I still would have made progress, but probably not as fast and probably not as incredibly progress as I made. So definitely do some mindset work. Now, this has been kind of a long video, but I just feel it is important, like I said in the beginning, for you to see someone else's journey, not only just their journey, but the imperfect journey that it took to get from the beginning to where they are now. And I am not done, right? I'm far from done. I still have a lot of goals that I want to reach, but I don't have my debt anymore. I have my fully funded emergency fund. I don't have a car note because I paid off my cars. I bought a house. When I met my husband and we decided to get married, we paid for our wedding in cash. Okay, this is all because of the money and the mindset work. And my journey has not been perfect, and I am still not done. But I know that I will reach my goals because I trust myself now. And that is one of the most beautiful outcomes of all of this work that I did, is I trust myself. I know that when I say I'm going to hit this goal, I know I'm going to show up and do it. So I want the same for you, because it is such a more comfortable life whenever you learn about this. Whenever you become more financially stable, whenever you change your mindset and you start living in a more positive reality, it is way more comfortable. I've been at rock bottom. That's why I explain this up here. I've been there, and I know what a terrible, uncomfortable place that is to be. What an unhappy and miserable existence that I was basically living at that time. I am no longer in survival mode, and it feels way better on this side. So I hope this has inspired you to know that no matter where you're starting from, you can get to where you're trying to go. You just have to believe in yourself. You have to show up for yourself. But you can get there, and I mean that, okay? So I have some resources that will help you on your journey. I have free trainings. I have free savings goal planners and trackers. I have things like budget worksheets, etc. I'm going to leave a whole bunch of resources in the description below so that you can go and check them out if you feel called to. But otherwise, I just want you to get started. Pick a starting point and get started, because you will never know. Like, your life can look drastically freaking different in just 1 year's time, just from you showing up and doing the work. Okay, so that was a lot. Thank you for sticking to the end if you did. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and I will see you next week. I will be back to talk about a new topic. So till next time, you got this, friend.